in 1997. Pays tribute to American women in the armed forces, past, present, and future. Has a great display on the history of women in our military inside, and houses a temporary display on Arlington House. You're going to pass through the set of these black iron gates. You might notice 4 gold crests on them. One for the Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard, and the Marine Corps. Those are the 4 branches of service at the time of the First World War. The Air Force, now a separate branch until 1947. At the very top of this hill, if you look on the passenger side, we're going to be passing by a staircase. Bottom of the staircase, right-hand side of the path, Bible grave before the clearing, has a couple stones on the top. That's the final resting place of civil rights icon Edgar Evers. He served as a technical sergeant in the Second World War, later became the first field secretary of the NAACP in his home state of Mississippi. Unfortunately, his civil rights activism led to his assassination in his own driveway in June of 1963. You keep looking on the passenger side, you're going to see what many people associate with Arlington row after row of white marble grave markers. These are government-issued markers that are provided free of charge to the deceased by the Veterans Administration. Each one stands 24 inches above ground and weighs about 230 pounds above all world. But if you look on the driver's side of the vehicle, you'll notice a little more variation among the grave markers. Many of these are privately funded markers that are paid for by family and friends of the deceased. As of December 2017, privately funded markers no longer allowed here at Arlington due to space and maintenance concerns. You're heading up to the gravesite of President Kennedy with the eternal flame. In March of 1963, President Kennedy made an unannounced visit here to Arlington, stood out in front of Arlington House, looked out over the cemetery in the city, and remarked on that beautiful view that could stay here forever. 8 months later, he was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. His family originally plans to have him buried in his home state of Massachusetts. Once the story of his visit here and the words that he said reaches widow Jacqueline, it's decided he'll be laid to rest here instead. Now on the passenger side of the vehicle, at the top of this large hill, you can see a flagpole. That flagpole is at half staff. It is lowered to half staff half an hour before the first funeral of every day, not raised up again until half an hour after the last funeral of the day. At the bottom of the hill, on the driver's side, we'll cross over a walkway. At the top of the hill, on the right-hand side of the walkway, that grove of trees contains the sarcophagus of Captain Robert Todd Lincoln, the only child of President Abraham Lincoln to survive into adulthood, served as our Secretary of War in the later part of the 1800s. On the passenger side of the vehicle, in the area called Supreme Court Hill, large number of Supreme Court justices laid to rest here, including William Rehnquist, Warren Burger, Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. In just a moment, we'll be passing by a large memorial that says Weeks on the passenger side. 2 rows behind the Weeks Memorial, a large granite, a dark granite marker for Thurgood Marshall, first African American appointee to our Supreme Court. Again, at the top of the hill on the passenger side, in among the trees, the large house is Arlington House. The low gray stone wall on the hillside below marks the final resting place of President Kennedy with the eternal flame. His wife Jacqueline buried next to him. They're flanked by 2 infant children. Nearby the graves of his brothers, Robert and Edward, both of them United States Senators, and a memorial marker for their oldest brother Joseph, who lost his life in the skies of Europe during the Second World War. His remains were never recovered. This is going to be our stop for President Kennedy's gravesite. To reach the gravesite, you're going to head straight back behind the vehicle, up a set of stones to rest here. Coming up on the passenger side, we're going to see at the end of a row a tall gray marker of the cross on the back for General Daniel Chaffee James Jr., the first African-American 4-star general in our armed forces, a Tuskegee Airman for the missions in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Among the trees on the driver's side, that's British Field Marshal Sir John Dill, the United Kingdom's emissary to the United States during the Second World War, one of about 60 foreign nationals that are laid to rest here at Arlington. Hollywood actress Maureen O'Hara, famous for starring in films with John Wayne, she's laid to rest in Section 2. Her husband was an Air Force Brigadier General. If any of you folks have ever had a Westinghouse appliance, George Westinghouse also laid to rest in Section 2, not only a pioneer with electrical appliances and systems, but also a veteran of the American Civil War. We have 2 5-star fleet admirals from the Second World War laid to rest in Section 2, Admiral William Halsey and Admiral William Leahy. And up by Arlington House, you can find the grave of Major Charles Pierre L'Enfant, who fought in the American Revolution, later laid out the original plan of the city of Washington, D.C. Coming up on the passenger side of the vehicle, we're passing by a tall hill with 4 oversized markers at the top. This is Chaplain's Hill, memorializes chaplains from all major denominations and all branches of the service from our conflicts in the 20th and 21st centuries. On the driver's side of the vehicle, down the road a little ways, that large red stone gate is the McClellan Gate, original gate of the cemetery from the 1870s, named after Major General George B. McClellan, a Union general from the Civil War. On the passenger side, Section 7, the final resting place of the only Nobel laureate buried here in Arlington, General George C. Marshall, Chief of Staff of the Army during the Second World War, later author of the Marshall Plan for rebuilding Europe after the war, for which he won a Nobel Peace Prize. Now on the driver's side of the vehicle, we are passing by Section 12. Section 12 There's a couple notable Marines laid to rest in it. I'd like to mention Sergeant Michael Strang, one of the Marines that raised the flag during the Battle of Iwo Jima. He's laid to rest in Section 12. Coming up on the driver's side, right by the side of the road, 3 large trees right in a row. This is the first one right here. Behind the third tree, there's a large gray marker. A row behind that to the right, look for the government issue marker that says New Jersey on the back. Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone, First Medal of Honor recipient from the Second World War, for his actions in the Battle of Guadalcanal. Now coming up on the passenger side, right in the front row, we're going to have Flag Congress and Silver Aviator Wings. Lieutenant Commander Barbara Allen Rainey, first female pilot in our Navy. Section 6 is now the section on our passenger side. In Section 6 you can find Lieutenant General John A. Lejeune, known as the Marines Marine, and the greatest of all leathernecks. He was the 13th Commandant of the Marine Corps. Camp Lejeune in North Carolina is named in his honor. It's kind of ironic, but you consider he originally wanted to be in the Army. He was accepted at West Point, but they didn't have room for him, so he ended up attending the Naval Academy in Annapolis, served for 2 years in the Navy, and then transferred to the Marine Corps. Now on the driver's side of the vehicle, passing by Section 10, in Section 10 you can find Lieutenant Ollie Josephine Bennett. During the First World War, Lieutenant Bennett became the first female doctor commissioned by the United States Army. And Lieutenant Bennett wasn't just a doctor, she was also a surgeon. Very rare to have a female doctor at that time, even more rare to have a female surgeon at the time of the First World War. We're going to be passing through an intersection. I'll direct your attention once again on the driver's side. Past the intersection, past the construction that we'll be able to see on that side. Kind of near the corner on the driver's side, there will be a large octagonal stone memorial for the USS Serpents. The Serpents was a Coast Guard ammunition ship that exploded off the coast of Guadalcanal in January 1945, taking with it the lives of 250 service members now buried under and around that memorial to the largest disaster in U.S. Coast Guard history. On the passenger side of the vehicle, Section 3, near the top of the hill, you can find the grave of Dr. Walter Reed. Walter Reed Army Hospital in Maryland is named for him. When he was working in Panama on the early 1900s, he helped discover the cause of yellow fever, helped limit the spread of that disease among the workers building the Panama Canal. In front of the vehicle, slightly to the driver's side, at the very top of the hill that we're going up right now, there's a large clearing ringed by evergreen trees. In the middle, there's a blue spruce tree. That is the World War I memorial tree. In front of the memorial tree are 2 government-issued grave markers. The one further from us is General of the Army's John J. Pershing, highest-ranking officer buried here in Arlington, highest-ranking officer in American history. He commanded the American Expeditionary Forces during the First World War. Later given the rank General of the Armies, that'd be roughly equivalent to a 6-star general at a time when we hadn't had 5-star generals yet. He had command of every branch of the armed forces. In that same section, you can find Corporal Ira Hayes, one of the Marines that raised the flag during the Battle of Iwo Jima, and General Henry Hap Arnold, father of the Air Force, 5-star general in the Army and the Air Force, the only man to hold that rank in 2 of our armed services. Anybody interested in getting off at General Pershing's gravesite? Going once, going twice. We're going to be headed up to the Memorial Amphitheater where the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is located. As we're headed out, on the driver's side is Section 18. Section 18 is largely made up of General Pershing's doughboys from the First World War. Many of these young men were originally buried in the fields of France during the war, but a letter-writing campaign from their families said we can't afford to visit our loved ones' graves in France, and they'd like to be relocated closer to home. As a result, many of these young men were reinterred here in the 1920s. Among them, you can find Corporal John Pruitt. He received 2 medals of honor for the same action during the Battle of Long Ridge, or the Meuse-Argonne offensive at the end of the First World War. The day after that heroic action was Corporal Pruitt's 22nd birthday. He was killed in an artillery barrage. The Meuse-Argonne offensive remains the bloodiest campaign in American military history. You continue to look on the driver's side along the back wall of the cemetery. A grove of evergreen trees with a large stone cross in the middle. That is the Argonne Cross. Commemorates Americans that fought in the Argonne Forest in France at the end of the First World War. Coming up on the passenger side of the vehicle, about 6-7 rows back, look for a tall, dark marker with silver aviator wings and the name Conrad on it. That's Apollo 12 astronaut Pete Conrad, 3rd man to walk on the moon. Member of the Gemini, Apollo, and Skylab programs, a very accomplished astronaut. The entire crew of Apollo 12 is among the roughly 24 astronauts buried here at Arlington. And we're headed over to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, which contains 4 crypts. One for an unknown soldier of the First World War, one for the Second World War, one for Korea, and one for Vietnam. The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier of Vietnam is currently empty. The remains formerly housed there were identified through DNA in the 1990s as those of Air Force First Lieutenant Michael Blassie. He was reinterred at Jefferson Barracks National Cemetery near St. Louis at his family's request. The tomb is guarded 24 hours a day, 365 days a year in all weather conditions by sentinels from the elite 3rd Infantry Regiment, also known as the Old Guard. The Old Guard has been continuously guarding the tomb since the beginning of 1948. making a turn, as we make our turn, I'll direct your attention off the driver's side. A few things to see on that side. Right near the corner, a gray memorial. Looks like it has a roof on the top. That's a memorial to the Battle of the Bulge, largest land battle in American military history. The rough-hewn boulder behind it with the Maltese cross is the Spanish-American War Nurses Memorial. Marks the beginning of Section 21, often referred to as the Nurses Section, made up of predominantly, but not exclusively, military nurses that have earned the right to rest here at Arlington. That is the Military Nurses Memorial on the hill on the driver's side, overlooking her comrades dressed in the uniform of a First World War nurse. At the very top of the hill on the driver's side, the large column with the eagle on the top that you'll be able to see is the Spanish-American War Memorial. You might notice 4 cannon in front of it. There are 2 with a green patina. Those are Spanish naval cannon from the time. They had a range of about 900 yards. The 2 black American cannon from the same time period had a range of about 14 miles. Now there's a lot to see and do up by the Memorial Amphitheater, including memorial markers for the space shuttles Challenger and Columbia, the Iran hostage crisis rescue mission attempt, a group burial marker for sailors that went down aboard the USS Monitor when it sank during the Civil War, the first ironclad warship in our Navy. Near the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, you can find a small museum that tells more about the history of the tomb and the tomb sentinels. Coming up on the driver's side of the vehicle, we're going to be passing by a very large tree that has a walkway all around it. Behind that large tree is the final resting place of Major Audie Murphy, one of the most highly decorated soldiers of the Second World War, who later became a Hollywood actor. This is going to be our stop for the Memorial Amphitheater, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, changing the guard at this location. Please be aware that where we drop you off is not where we pick you up. Be picked up again. The pickup spot is on the driver's side of the vehicle. You're going to see a large stone cross with a bronze sword on the front. That is the Canadian Cross of Sacrifice, commemorates Americans that crossed our northern border at the beginning of the First and Second World Wars to join Canadian armed forces. The United States was neutral at the beginning of those conflicts, not involved in the fighting, but Canada, a member of the British Commonwealth, was involved from the very start. On the hillside behind the Cross of Sacrifice, that ship's mast is the rear mast of the USS Maine. Battleship Maine was sailed into Havana Harbor in 1898 to protect American interests in Cuba during the revolution in that country. A mysterious explosion sank the Maine one night. Unclear to this day whether it was the result of a faulty boiler or perhaps Spanish sabotage. Public opinion at the time latched on to the idea that the Spanish had attacked one of our warships. This led to the rallying cry "Remember the Maine," led the United States into war with the Spanish Empire, the Spanish-American War. On the passenger side of the vehicle, we're passing by Section 13, which is the largest concentration of Civil War burials here at Arlington. We have about 16,000 Civil War combatants laid to rest here. Section 13 is also the final resting place of one of the original owners of the estate that Arlington Cemetery was created out of, George Washington Parke Custis and his wife Mary Lee Fitzhugh. When George Washington Parke Custis passed away, he left this land to his only surviving child, a daughter named Mary Anna Randolph. Mary Anna had been married a young promising West Point graduate, Army lieutenant, and distant cousin by the name of Robert E. Lee. The Lees made their home here from the 1830s to 1861. During that time, Lieutenant Lee rose up through the ranks and became Colonel Lee. By 1861, he was probably the most promising officer in the entire American Army. This led President Abraham Lincoln to offer him command of all Union forces for the coming Civil War, but Lee was a Virginian. He had to deliberate and decide, but he ultimately decided he could not raise his sword against his family or his state. He resigned his commission in the American Army, went south, and offered his services to the state of Virginia. His family soon fled this property. No Lee would ever live here again. Shortly after the family left, the United States government seized this land for a strategic location overlooking the city of Washington, D.C. They couldn't afford to allow Confederate cannon to be placed up here where they could attack the city. By 1864, as the Civil War was dragging on, Washington, D.C. became full of army and hospitals. There were young men dying in the city every day, and frankly, they were running out of space to bury them. Brigadier General Montgomery Meigs, the Quartermaster General of the Army, solved this problem by requisitioning 200 acres of this property for military burials, which began here on May 13, 1864, with the internment of Private William Crispin of Pennsylvania. He died of complications of measles less than 2 months after enlisting in the Union Army. In these older sections of the cemetery, we see many grave markers that simply say "Unknown U.S. Soldier" on the front. These are unknown casualties of the Civil War. There was no uniform system for identifying the dead at the time of the war. So many of the casualties of that combat went to their graves with no name attached to them. Dog tags were not issued in the American services until 1909. On the driver's side of the vehicle, we are passing by Section 1, which is not the oldest, but probably the most ornate section of the cemetery. Many of the grave markers here date back to the Gilded Age of the late 1800s, reflect the wealth of that time period. Size of the grave marker has nothing to do with the rank of the person buried beneath it. It has everything to do with how much money they wanted to spend on their final resting place. Coming up on the driver's side, I'll point out the final resting place of the original founder of Arlington Cemetery, Brigadier General Montgomery Meigs. Past this small tree, about 5 rows back, there's a white marble sarcophagus with writing on it. That is the grave of General Meigs. Also coming up on the driver's side, a large granite obelisk with a bronze plaque on the front. That's Major General Abner Doubleday. Often credited with inventing the game of baseball, something he probably did not do. He was an early promoter of the game, wrote an early rule book for the game, but he never took credit for its invention. He's probably more properly remembered as the man who fired the first Union shot of the Civil War. He fired the first cannon in defense of Fort Sumter in April 1861 in Charleston, South Carolina. The white building that is in front of us, often mistaken for Arlington House. It is not Arlington House. Those are National Park Service's office. This is about where the stables used to be when Arlington House was a plantation. Now on the driver's side of the vehicle in the traffic median, 270 red stones arranged in the shape of a traditional Scottish cairn. This commemorates the 270 lives lost in the Pan Am Flight 103 terrorist attack over Lockerbie, Scotland in 1988. The names of those who perished in that attack, both those who were on the plane and those on the ground, are memorialized around its base. We're coming into our stop for Arlington House. The house itself is temporarily closed for renovation, but there's a lot to see and do in this area. Section 1 has some very interesting and unique grave markers in it, including on the passenger side, this huge rose quartz boulder, just one example of the unique grave markers here in Section 1. Section 1 also has remains reinterred here from as far back as the American Revolution and War of 1812, making Arlington Cemetery the only national cemetery in the cemetery system that has remains from all of America's major conflicts. Some of the best views of the city of Washington, D.C. and the Pentagon are also available from the hillside in front of the vehicle, past the green construction fences. So this is our stop for Arlington House, one of the most distinctive ones in the entire cemetery. Visible on the passenger side looks like a Civil War cannon. That's the final resting place of Major General Wallace Randolph, 1st United States Army Chief of Artillery. When he passed away, he wanted a cannon to mark his grave, and since he was a general, he got what he wanted. That is a 12-pounder Napoleon cannon that was actually used in combat during the Civil War. In front of the vehicle, at the crest of the hill, you can probably see a large statue of a man on a horse. That's Major General Philip Kearny. You'll get a better look at his statue as we make our turn off the passenger side. And if you look real close while we make our turn, you might see that General Kearny is missing his left arm. General Kearny lost his left arm during the Mexican-American War. Later lost his life during the Civil War in the Battle of Chantilly, September 1862. Past the green construction fence on the passenger side of the vehicle, we're passing by the original amphitheater that was constructed here at Arlington shortly after the Civil War. On the low rise behind the amphitheater, the large gray stone sarcophagus that we'll see is the tomb of the Civil War unknowns. Under and around that marker, 2,111 unknown Civil War combatants gathered from about a 35-mile radius. On the passenger side of the vehicle, we will be passing behind Arlington House. That renovation work well underway. Arlington House, originally completed in 1818 by George Washington Augustus, intended not only as a private residence, but also as a form of memorial and tribute to his grandfather and father figure, George Washington. On the driver's side of the vehicle, we're passing by Arlington Woods. This area is preserved by the National Park Service to give visitors some indication of what a lot of this land looked like when the Lees were operating their plantation here. Now, when I say plantation, a lot of people think of a cotton or tobacco plantation like you might find in the deep south. The weather and soil conditions here in northern Virginia won't allow those crops to grow profitably. So this was operated as a livestock plantation. Wood lots like this were very important to the plantation. They were the main source of fuel for fires and construction materials for fencing and outbuildings. Now, Arlington Cemetery first rose to international prominence following the First World War. The First World War was the first mechanized war, the first war in which chemical weapons were used. Large-scale artillery bombardments and trench warfare at the time left the fields of Western Europe broken and scarred. One of the only plants that would grow in the broken earth of France and Belgium were small red poppy flowers known as the corn poppy. Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, a Canadian Army surgeon, saw these poppies growing among the graves of his comrades after conducting the funeral service of one of his best friends. This inspired him to write a poem known as In Flanders Fields, which goes in part, In Flanders Fields the poppies grow, amidst the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amongst the guns below. The memory of the poppy flower growing among the graves of the dead of the First World War, combined with the popularity that that poem achieved, led to the poppy becoming an international symbol of military sacrifice that is still remembered and recognized to this day. Now, most people know that President Kennedy is buried here in Arlington. Some people are surprised to learn that he is not the only president buried here. Our 27th President, William Howard Taft, is also laid to rest here. Now, he not only served as president, but he also served as the 10th Chief Justice of our Supreme Court, the only person in our history to have held both the position of president and Supreme Court justice. And let me tell you, he enjoyed being a Supreme Court justice so much more than he enjoyed being president. Didn't really care for his time as president, but loved being a Supreme Court justice. His gravesite visible on the hillside, off the passenger side, the tall brown marker among the hedges on the hillside over there. His wife Helen is buried up there with him, and along with the Japanese ambassador's wife at the time, Helen Taft, responsible for bringing the cherry blossom trees here to Washington, D.C. We're going to be passing by the pathway up to President Taft's grave on the passenger side. About halfway up the path on the left-hand side, there is a large tree. To the left of the tree, in the second row, a large gray marker with 5 stars in the circle for General Omar Bradley, known as the GI's general, more men under his command than probably any other leader in military history, about 1.3 million fighting men in Europe during the Second World War. As we're coming back into our Welcome Center, I would like to take this opportunity to thank any service members, veterans, or their families that we have on board with us today. Because of your dedication, your service, and your sacrifices, the story of Arlington Cemetery and the story of the United States is given a deeper meaning and is able to continue. So we thank you. If you take a look at the back of your ticket, it is a comment card. We'd love to hear what you thought of your tour today. Please feel free to fill that out, drop it in the mail. Postage is paid by us. Once again, my name is Jake. I've been your narrator. Our driver today has been Jimmy. We hope your time today at Arlington has been meaningful. We hope your tour has been enjoyable. As a small way of remembering your time with us today and those who are laid to rest here, as you're getting off the vehicle, look for me up by the front. I'll be up on the sidewalk, handing out small red silk poppy. Once again, that international symbol of military sacrifice. Please feel free to take one for yourself. If you have family or friends that are serving or have served, feel free to take one for them as well. And we are going to be coming into our final stop, so I'd like to remind you one more time, please remain seated until the vehicle comes to a complete and final stop. Please watch your step, use the handrails, and bring all of your belongings with you as you exit the vehicle. I want to remind you also that your tickets are good all day. Should you wish to reboard our tour, feel free to get back on board. See some more areas of the cemetery perhaps that you didn't get to explore enough before. I want to thank you folks one more time for riding with us today. It's a very great privilege of mine to be able to show people around this place and explain its history and significance. So to each and every one of you, thank you. I hope you enjoy your time here in Washington, D.C. on this beautiful day. Wherever it is that you call home when it is time for you to return there, I hope you reach it safely and soundly. Thank you, folks.